The cold silence of the command center seemed to grow deeper with each passing hour. Dr. Tahoe Kim stared at the display showing nothing but empty space where the ECS horizon should have been. 3 years had passed since the ship vanished, but for him, the pain remained as fresh as the day it happened. "Replay the final transmission," he ordered, his voice barely above a whisper. The technician beside him nodded and pressed a few buttons. The image of Captain Ju Park appeared on screen. Her face, so familiar to Tahoe, showed a mix of wonder and fear. "Something's pulling us in. It's beautiful." Those were the last words from the horizon before all communication ceased. Tahoe had watched this recording hundreds of times, studying every pixel, every sound, searching for clues others might have missed. "Dr. Kim," a voice called from behind him. "The Defense Council is waiting." Tahoe nodded but didn't move right away. He touched the screen gently, his fingers tracing the outline of Ju's face. "I'll find you," he whispered. "I promise." The Defense Council chamber was filled with high-ranking military officers and government officials. General Han sat at the center of the long table, his face hard and emotionless. "Dr. Kim, thank you for joining us," he said, though his tone suggested he was anything but thankful. "We need to discuss the reallocation of your research team." Tahoe stood straight, keeping his face calm despite the anger rising inside him. "Sir, I believe my team is exactly where it needs to be." "The search for the horizon ended 2 years ago," General Han said firmly. "The official report lists the ship and all crew as lost. We need your expertise focused on defensive technology against the Arcturian threat." "The Arcturians have made no direct moves against Earth," Tahoe argued, "and I do not accept that the horizon is lost." A woman at the far end of the table sighed loudly. "Dr. Kim, your personal connection to this matter is clouding your judgment. Captain Park was your wife. We understand your pain. But Tahoe corrected. "Captain Park is my wife. And this isn't about personal feelings. The anomaly that the horizon was investigating could be crucial to understanding space-time distortions that might be weaponized." The council members exchanged glances. Tahoe knew they were tired of his persistence, but he couldn't give up. Wouldn't give up. General Han leaned forward. "You have 1 week to show meaningful progress in your search, or your team will be reassigned. That's final." Tahoe didn't sleep that night. He stayed in his lab, reviewing data, running simulations, and searching for any pattern in the cosmic background radiation near the last known position of the horizon. His eyes burned from staring at screens, but he pushed on. "You should rest," said Dr. Minayun, his assistant, placing a cup of coffee beside him. "You won't help Ju if you collapse." "I can't rest," Tahoe said, taking a sip of the bitter coffee. "The council is shutting us down in a week." Mina sat down beside him. "Then we work smarter, not just harder. What if we try a different approach? What if instead of looking for the ship, we look for disturbances, changes in the pattern that might indicate a ship trying to return?" Tahoe considered this. "It's worth trying. Let's set up a new scan protocol." For the next 3 days, they modified their search parameters, looking for subtle changes rather than direct signals. On the 4th day, as Tahoe was about to leave for a brief rest, an alert sounded. "We have something," Mina called, excitement in her voice. A signal, very weak, but definitely artificial. Tahoe rushed to her station. "Where?" "Edge of the solar system, just beyond Neptune's orbit." Tahoe's heart raced as he studied the data. "This frequency. It's old. We haven't used this communication protocol in decades." "Could it be another ship?" Mina asked. "No," Tahoe said, a smile breaking across his tired face. "This was the emergency backup system on the horizon. Ju and I used to joke about how outdated it was." He quickly sent the signal data to the main display and played it through the speakers. At first, there was only static, but then, barely audible beneath the noise, a voice. "Earth. Horizon. Returning." Tahoe's hands trembled as he enhanced the signal. It's them. It's really them. Within an hour, the lab was filled with IDC officials. General Han stood beside Tahoe, watching as the signal grew stronger. How can we be sure it's the Horizon? The general asked. This could be an Arcturian trick. The frequency, the signal pattern, the voice pattern match, Tahoe explained, trying to contain his excitement. And look at this. He pulled up a spectrographic analysis. There's a personal code embedded in the transmission, something only Juwu and I would recognize. General Han frowned. What kind of code? The date we met, translated into binary, hidden in the carrier wave. Tahoe said softly. It's her. She's coming home. The signal continued to strengthen over the next 12 hours. The IDC mobilized their fleet, unsure whether to prepare for a reunion or a threat. Tahoe argued fiercely against any show of military force. If they wanted to attack, they wouldn't announce themselves, he insisted. As dawn broke the next day, Tahoe stood in the observation deck of the IDC headquarters, scanning the sky with powerful telescopes. And then he saw it, a tiny point of light moving against the stars, growing larger as it approached Earth. Visual confirmation, he reported into his communicator. But there's something strange about the ship's appearance. As the horizon drew closer, everyone could see what Tahoe meant. The once sleek hull was now covered in strange, shifting patterns that seemed to bend light around them. The geometric shapes moved and flowed like liquid, yet remained part of the solid structure. What happened to it? General Han whispered, standing beside Tahoe. I don't know, Tahoe admitted. But whatever it is, it's beyond any technology we have. The Horizon established orbit around Earth, maintaining a safe distance. After 3 years of silence, the ship's communication systems came to life, broadcasting on all frequencies. Earth Command, this is Captain Juwu Park of the ECS Horizon. We are returning from elsewhere. Request permission to send a shuttle down. There's so much we need to tell you. Tahoe couldn't hold back his tears as he heard his wife's voice. Against all protocols, he grabbed the microphone. Juwu, he said, his voice breaking. It's me. It's Tahoe. There was a pause, then Juwu's voice, filled with emotion. Tahoe, my love, how long has it been for you? 3 years, he replied. 3 long years. Another pause. For us, it's been only 3 weeks. Time flows differently where we've been. Her voice became more official. Dr. Kim, prepare your team. What we're bringing back will change everything. As the world watched in amazement, the Horizon deployed a shuttle. On its hull were the same strange patterns that covered the mothership, technology that defied understanding, brought back from beyond the edge of known space. For Tahoe, none of that mattered yet. All that mattered was that Juwu was coming home, bearing impossible gifts from the stars. The shuttle from the ECS Horizon descended through Earth's atmosphere with strange grace. It moved unlike any human spacecraft, seeming to glide through air rather than push against it. The strange geometric patterns on its hull shifted and pulsed with soft blue light. Dr. Tahoe Kim stood at the landing pad, surrounded by IDC security forces. His heart pounded in his chest. After 3 years of searching, of hoping against hope, he would finally see Juwu again. But fear mixed with his excitement. What had happened to her and the crew? What had changed them? The shuttle touched down without a sound, no landing thrusters, no impact. It simply stopped moving when it reached the ground, as if the laws of physics were merely suggestions. Security teams, maintain position. General Han ordered through his communicator. No one approaches until we verify it's safe. Tahoe glanced at the general. That's my wife in there. That's something that returned claiming to be your wife. Han corrected. After 3 years missing and now with impossible technology. A seam appeared in the shuttle's side, widening into a doorway. Light spilled out, bright but not blinding. A figure appeared in the opening. Captain Juwu Park stepped onto Earth soil, wearing the same uniform she had left in 3 years ago. But there was something different about her. She moved with unusual precision, and her eyes seemed to take in everything at once. Behind her came two more crew members, Lieutenant So-min Kang and Commander Min-ho Lee. "Weapons down," Ju said calmly. "We come in peace, as humans returning home." Tahoe couldn't wait any longer. He broke through the security line and ran toward her. "Sir, stop," a security officer shouted, but Tahoe ignored him. Ju's eyes found him, and for a moment, something flickered in them. Recognition, love, but also something distant, as if she were looking at him from across a vast space. "Tahoe," she said softly as he reached her. He stopped just short of embracing her, suddenly uncertain. "Ju, is it really you?" She smiled, and in that smile was the woman he remembered. "It's me, though. Perhaps not entirely the same." Tahoe reached out slowly and touched her face. Her skin felt warm, human. He pulled her into an embrace, and after a moment's hesitation, she hugged him back. "I never stopped looking for you," he whispered. "I know," she replied. "I could feel it, somehow." General Han approached, flanked by security. "Captain Park, welcome back. I'm sure you understand we have many questions." Ju nodded, stepping back from Tahoe, but keeping hold of his hand. "And we have answers, though they might be difficult to comprehend." "Try us," Han said. Commander Lee moved forward, his movements as precise as Ju's. "We encountered beings that exist outside normal space-time. They call themselves the Architects. They've been watching humanity for centuries." Security forces tensed at this revelation, but Ju raised a hand. "They mean no harm. They tested us, studied us, and ultimately gave us a gift." "The technology on your ship," Tahoe said. Ju nodded. "Technology isn't quite the right word. It's more like an extension of consciousness merged with physical reality." Han frowned. "That makes no sense, Captain." "I know," she admitted. "It didn't to us either, at first." Lieutenant Kang spoke up. "We need to show you. Words aren't enough." Han shook his head. "No demonstrations until we've done full medical examinations and debriefings. Standard protocol." "Of course," Ju agreed, though Tahoe noticed something like amusement in her eyes. The returning crew members were escorted to the medical facility. Tahoe walked beside Ju, afraid to let her out of his sight again. "What was it like?" he asked quietly. "Where did you go?" Ju's eyes grew distant. "Somewhere beautiful and terrible. A place where thoughts become reality and time has no meaning. 3 weeks for us, 3 years for you. The Architects exist in all moments simultaneously. And they just let you go, gave you their technology. They believe humanity has potential," she said. "They've given similar gifts to other species, but most failed their test." "What test?" Ju looked at him seriously. "The test of intention. What we do with this power will determine everything." In the medical lab, doctors examined the returned crew members. Dr. Yuna Ba, the IDC's chief medical officer, looked puzzled as she reviewed the results. Physically, they appeared to be human, she told General Han and Tahoe. But there are anomalies in their brain scans, increased activity in regions we don't fully understand. And there's something else. She pointed to strange patterns in their cellular structure. Their very cells seem to be changing, reorganizing in ways I can't explain. "Are they dangerous?" Han asked. "I don't know," Dr. Ba admitted. "But they're still human. Just evolving, perhaps." Tahoe spent hours by Ju's side during the examinations and initial debriefings. She answered questions with patience, though many of her explanations left the IDC officials more confused than before. "The ship seems to respond to your thoughts," one scientist noted after reviewing the preliminary scans of the horizon. "It does," Ju confirmed. "The patterns you see are a physical manifestation of a conscious interface. The ship is partly alive, in a sense." As night fell, Tahoe and Ju We're finally allowed some privacy in a secured IDC apartment. They don't trust us, Ju said, looking out the window at the guards posted outside. Can you blame them? Tahoe asked gently. You disappeared for 3 years and returned with impossible technology. During a time when tensions with the Arcturians are at an all-time high. Ju turned to him, her expression serious. The Arcturians aren't the threat Earth should be worried about. They're just another young species like us. Then what should we worry about? Ourselves, she said simply. What we might become with this power. She approached him slowly. Tahoe, I need you to understand something. What the architects gave us isn't just technology. It's changing us. All of us who were on the horizon. Fear gripped Tahoe's heart. Changing you how? Our consciousness is expanding. We perceive things differently now. Sometimes I can sense thoughts, feelings. Sometimes I can see possible futures branching out like rivers. She touched his face. I'm still Ju. I still love you. But there's more to me now. I don't care, Tahoe said firmly. I didn't spend 3 years searching just to lose you again because you're different. Ju smiled, a tear sliding down her cheek. Tomorrow, we'll show them what the ship can do. And then everything will change. For all of humanity. That night, as Ju slept beside him, Tahoe watched the strange patterns that occasionally shimmered just beneath her skin. Whatever had happened to her, whatever she had become, he knew that Earth would never be the same again. The return of the horizon wasn't just the end of a search. It was the beginning of something much bigger. And as he finally drifted off to sleep, he couldn't help but wonder if humanity was ready for what was coming. The morning sun glinted off the strange patterns covering the ECS horizon as it orbited Earth. On the observation deck of the IDC headquarters, a group of scientists, military officials, and government representatives gathered to witness the first official demonstration of the ship's new capabilities. Dr. Tahoe Kim stood at the front of the group, beside General Han. Both men watched the screens intently as a shuttle carried Captain Ju Park and a small team back to the horizon. Are you sure this is wise? General Han asked quietly. Letting them return to the ship before we fully understand what we're dealing with. You saw the scans, Tahoe replied. No one but them can operate the ship now. It's connected to them somehow. The shuttle docked with the horizon, and minutes later, Juwoo's face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, the bridge of the horizon looked both familiar and alien. The standard control panels remained, but now strange flowing patterns covered many surfaces, pulsing with soft light. Earth Command, we're ready to begin the demonstration, she said. Please keep all satellites at a safe distance from our test area. General Han leaned toward the microphone. Proceed, Captain Park. But remember, any action deemed threatening will result in immediate defensive measures. Juwoo nodded, her expression serious. Understood. First, we'll demonstrate the navigation system. Commander Minho Lee stepped forward, placing his hands on what appeared to be a solid surface of shifting patterns. Traditional engines use fuel to push against space. What we have now is different. As he closed his eyes in concentration, the patterns around his hands glowed brighter. On the external camera feeds, observers gasped as the horizon simply vanished. Where did they go? Someone shouted in panic. Tahoe checked the tracking systems. They're gone. No sign on any sensors. Before anyone could react further, the horizon reappeared exactly where it had been. Juwoo's calm face returned to the screen. We just traveled to the far side of the moon and back, she explained. The ship doesn't move through space. It folds space around itself, guided by consciousness. The room erupted in shocked discussions. Scientists demanded explanations that matched known physics. Military officers questioned the strategic implications. Through it all, Tahoe watched Juwoo, noting the slight smile on her face. Next, she continued when the room quieted. Lieutenant Soman Kang will demonstrate our defensive capabilities. Soman stepped forward, a petite woman whose serious expression contrasted with her gentle appearance. "We're releasing a test drone. Please observe." A small probe detached from the horizon. On another screen, General Han nodded to an officer who pressed a series of commands. A moment later, a beam of energy shot from an orbital defense platform, heading straight for the probe. Salman raised her hand. The patterns on the ship pulsed, and a shimmering field appeared around the probe. When the beam hit, it didn't explode or disperse. It simply vanished, as if it had never existed. "The shield doesn't absorb energy," Salman explained. "It redirects it through dimensional shifts. The attack essentially goes elsewhere." General Han leaned forward, his eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Nothing can just make energy disappear." "Not disappear," Ju corrected. "Redirect. The energy still exists, just not in our dimensional plane." The demonstration continued with more revelations. The horizon could now scan and analyze materials at the molecular level from vast distances. It could generate fields that affected specific elements while leaving others untouched. Most disturbing to the military observers, it demonstrated weapons that could target and disable systems without destruction, rendering enemy ships or weapons useless without harming their crews. After the demonstration, the shuttle returned to Earth with Juwu and her team. In the IDC conference room, the debate raged. "This technology must be weaponized immediately," insisted Admiral Bake, pounding his fist on the table. "The Arcturians have been pushing at our borders for years. With this, we could end the threat forever." Dr. Yuna shook her head. "We don't even understand how it works. Rushing to weaponize it could be catastrophic. The architects didn't give us weapons," Ju said quietly, but everyone fell silent to listen. "They gave us tools. How we use them reflects who we are." "Pretty words," Admiral Bake scoffed. "But we live in a dangerous reality. The Arcturians wouldn't hesitate to use this technology against us." Ju exchanged glances with her crew before speaking again. "There's something else you need to understand. This technology responds to intention. When we operate it with peace in mind, it works perfectly. But when fear or anger takes over..." Minho continued, "During our journey home, I lost control briefly when thinking about my family, wondering if they were safe. The ship's systems became erratic, dangerous. The architects warned us," Salman added. "Using this technology with aggressive intent could have catastrophic consequences beyond what we can predict." Taiho watched the military officials exchange skeptical glances. They didn't understand, couldn't understand, without experiencing it themselves. "Perhaps a more concrete demonstration is needed," Ju suggested. She turned to General Han. "With your permission, I'd like to show you what happens when this technology confronts hostility directly." General Han considered for a moment, then nodded. "Arrange it." The next day, an Arcturian scout ship was detected near Jupiter's orbit. Such incursions have become common in recent years as the alien hegemony tested Earth's defenses and response times. The Horizon, with Tahoe now aboard as an observer, moved to intercept. As they approached the Arcturian vessel, Tahoe felt a tension among the crew. "What are you planning?" he asked Juwu as they stood on the bridge. "A demonstration of possibility," she replied. "Watch." The Arcturian ship, detecting the horizon, charged its weapons. Before it could fire, Juwu closed her eyes. The patterns throughout the ship pulsed in rhythm with her breathing. A field extended from the horizon, surrounding the Arcturian vessel. Its weapons powered down, its engines stopped, yet life support remained functioning. "We've isolated their offensive systems only," Juwu explained to the astonished Taiho. "No harm to the crew, no destruction. Just peace, enforced temporarily." She opened a communication channel to the Arcturian ship. The alien commander, a blue-skinned humanoid with ridge-like features, appeared on screen, his expression a mixture of rage and fear. "This is Captain Juwu Park of Earth," she said calmly. "Your ship will be released unharmed when we complete our demonstration. We come with a message, Conflict between our species is no longer necessary or productive. The Arcturian snarled something that the translator rendered as a mixture of threats and questions. Jiwoo smiled. How did we do this? With technology given to us by beings who believe in potential rather than power. The same potential exists in your species as well. She released the Arcturian ship, which quickly retreated. As they returned to Earth, Tahoe looked at his wife with new understanding. This isn't just about defense or exploration anymore, is it? No, Jiwoo admitted. The architects believe humanity stands at a crossroads. With this technology, we could become conquerors or creators. They're watching to see which path we choose. Tahoe looked out at the stars. And if we choose wrong? Jiwoo's expression grew serious. Then perhaps we weren't ready after all. And what can be given can also be taken away. The warning came at dawn. A massive Arcturian fleet had appeared near Earth's lunar colony without detection. 50 warships, more than had ever been seen together, moved into attack formation. The colony, home to 10,000 civilians, had minimal defenses. Alarms blared throughout IDC headquarters as Tahoe rushed to the command center. General Han already stood at the main console, barking orders. All Earth defense vessels deploy immediately. Evacuation protocols for the lunar colony are now active. Tahoe pushed through the crowd of officers. Where's Jiwoo? Where's the Horizon? A communications officer looked up. Captain Park and the Horizon are in orbital dock. They've been ordered to remain there. What? Tahoe couldn't believe what he was hearing. The Horizon is our best defense. General Han turned to him, face grim. The Defense Council doesn't trust the new technology in a real combat situation. They've ordered conventional forces only. On the main screen, the first Arcturian shots hit the colony's shields. The protective barrier flickered dangerously. Those shields won't last 10 minutes, an officer reported. Our nearest vessels are 30 minutes out. Tahoe grabbed the general's arm. People will die if you don't deploy the Horizon. It's not my decision, Han replied, though doubt showed in his eyes. Tahoe didn't wait to argue further. He ran to the communications station and opened a direct channel to the Horizon. Jiwoo, are you seeing this? Her face appeared on the small screen, calm but determined. We see it. We're being ordered to stand down. You can't. The colony won't survive. A moment of silence passed between them. Then Jiwoo nodded. I know. The channel closed. Seconds later, alarms sounded again. The Horizon has broken dock without authorization. Someone shouted. They're moving toward the moon at incredible speed. General Han rushed over. Stop them. We can't, the officer replied. They're already gone. All eyes turned to the main display where the Arcturian attack continued. Suddenly, the Horizon appeared between the Arcturian fleet and the colony. This is Captain Jiwoo Park of the ECS Horizon. Her voice came through on all channels, broadcasting to both Earth forces and the Arcturian fleet. Cease your attack on the civilian colony immediately. The Arcturian commander's face appeared on a split screen, his blue skin darkened with anger. Earth vessel, your destruction will serve as an example to your species. The time for human expansion ends today. The largest Arcturian battleship fired a massive energy weapon at the Horizon. Everyone in the command center held their breath. The beam struck the ship directly and vanished into the shifting patterns of its hull. We don't wish to fight, Jiwoo said calmly, but we will protect our people. She nodded to Somin, who raised her hands. The patterns on the Horizon's hull pulsed rapidly, and a shimmering barrier extended outward, surrounding the entire lunar colony in a protective dome. The Arcturians fired again, this time with multiple ships. Each attack disappeared into the barrier without effect. The alien commander roared with frustration and ordered his entire fleet to concentrate fire. Inside the Horizon, the situation was becoming dangerous. Tahoe had arrived via emergency shuttle just before the barrier went up, rushing to the bridge to find the crew struggling. What's happening? he asked, seeing the strain on their faces. Minho gripped his console, sweat beading on his forehead. Too much emotion. The technology is becoming unstable. Tahoe could see it. The beautiful flowing patterns that covered the ship now moved erratically, changing colors from blue to angry red in places. Small electrical discharges crackled along the walls. The architects warned us, Ju said through gritted teeth. Fear, anger, vengeance. These emotions corrupt the technology's function. Communications officer Do-Yeon Choi, who had been quiet until now, suddenly spoke up. It's not a weapon. It's an extension of consciousness. What do you mean? Tahoe asked. The technology doesn't respond to what we tell it to do, Do-Yeon explained. It responds to who we are in the moment we use it. Right now, we're afraid, angry, protective. It's making the system chaotic. Outside, the Arcturian attacks continued relentlessly. The barrier held, but fluctuations rippled across its surface. In some places, it thinned dangerously. If that barrier fails, thousands will die, Tahoe said. Ju-woo looked at her crew, understanding dawning in her eyes. Do-Yeon is right. We're approaching this wrong. She stood in the center of the bridge. Everyone, clear your minds. Remember what the architects showed us. There's no time for meditation. Minho protested. There's no time not to, Ju-woo countered. This is what the architects were testing. Can we transcend our basic instincts while wielding this power? She closed her eyes. Don't fight your fear or anger. Acknowledge it. Accept it, then let it go. Find that place of calm intent they showed us. One by one, the crew followed her example. Tahoe watched in amazement as they seemed to enter a trance-like state. The chaotic patterns throughout the ship gradually steadied, returning to their harmonious blue glow. Ju-woo opened her eyes, which now shimmered with the same blue light. When she spoke, her voice was calm but carried a strange resonance. Now together. The crew moved in perfect synchronization, their hands moving across consoles that responded to thought more than touch. The barrier around the lunar colony stabilized, becoming clearer, stronger. But they didn't stop there. The barrier began to expand, moving outward toward the Arcturian fleet. The aliens fired desperately as it approached, but nothing could stop its advance. What are you doing? Tahoe asked, worried they were launching a counterattack. Showing them another way, Ju replied. The barrier enveloped the entire Arcturian fleet. Rather than destroying them, it simply neutralized their weapons systems. Ship after ship went dark, then rebooted with only life support and communications functioning. On the bridge of the Arcturian command ship, the alien leader raged impotently. His vessel, once the pride of their fleet, now floated powerless. This is not victory, Ju said, opening a channel to the Arcturian commander. This is possibility. We could have destroyed your fleet, but what would that solve? Instead, we offer a chance to break the cycle of conflict. You expect mercy to change decades of hostility, the commander snarled. No, Ju replied. I expect demonstration of a better path to make you question the one you're on. She gestured, and power returned to the Arcturian ships, not weapons, but engines and basic systems. Return home. Tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them that the next time they send a fleet, it should come with diplomats, not weapons. As the Arcturian ships retreated, the crew of the Horizon slowly came out of their collective state. They looked exhausted but triumphant. Back on Earth, the command center was silent with awe. General Han stared at the display, showing the retreating Arcturian fleet. They did it, he whispered, without firing a shot. Tahoe looked at Ju with new understanding. What the architects had given humanity wasn't just technology. It was a challenge to evolve beyond their most basic instincts. Today, they had passed the first real test. As the Horizon returned to Earth orbit, Ju took Tahoe's hand. This is just the beginning, she said softly. The hard part comes next. What's that? He asked. Convincing humanity to change when change is frightening, she replied, looking toward Earth. The technology is the easy part. It's the evolution of thought that's difficult. 3 weeks after the lunar colony incident, Dr. Tahoe Kim sat in his lab examining cellular samples from the Horizon crew. The changes in their biology fascinated and frightened him. Their neural pathways had restructured, creating patterns never before seen in human brains. Their DNA showed subtle alterations that seemed to be spreading cell by cell. "It's accelerating," he murmured to himself, adjusting his microscope. "What is?" asked Juwu from the doorway. She moved silently these days, another change he was still getting used to. Tahoe looked up at his wife. The faint patterns beneath her skin were more visible now, a gentle blue glow that pulsed with her heartbeat. "The changes in your cellular structure," he replied. "It's happening faster than before." Juwu nodded, unsurprised. "We felt it would. The more we use the technology, the more it integrates with us." She sat across from him, taking his hand. Her touch still felt human, warm, soft, but there was something else now, a subtle energy that passed between them. "Does it hurt?" he asked. "No," she said, smiling. "It feels like waking up, like seeing colors you never knew existed." Before Tahoe could respond, his computer chimed with an incoming message. The screen showed General Han's face. "Dr. Kim, Captain Park, please come to conference room A immediately. The Arcturians have made contact." They hurried to the conference room. Inside, military and government officials gathered around a large display showing an Arcturian diplomatic vessel in orbit. It had arrived without weapons, as Juwu had suggested during the crisis. General Han nodded to them as they entered. "The Arcturian High Council is requesting a meeting. Specifically, they asked for the evolved humans of the Horizon." Juwu exchanged glances with Commander Minho and Lieutenant Soman, who had also arrived. "They sensed the difference in us," she said. "Can they be trusted?" asked a government official. "Trust must start somewhere," Juwu replied simply. The meeting was arranged on neutral ground, a space station positioned between Earth and Arcturian space. Tahoe accompanied the Horizon crew as a scientific observer, though privately he couldn't bear to be separated from Juwu again. The Arcturian delegation was led by Elder Korek, an ancient blue-skinned being with eyes that held centuries of wisdom. Unlike the military commander they had faced, Korek approached with open hands, a sign of peace in their culture. "The humans who bend reality," Korek said through a translator. "Our warriors spoke of your power with fear. I come seeking understanding instead." Juwu stepped forward. "We welcome understanding, Elder Korek. What would you like to know?" "These beings who changed you, the architects, have they contacted other species?" "Yes," Juwu replied. "Many, over countless millennia. Some passed their test, others failed." Korek's eyes widened. "And what is their purpose?" "They guide evolution," Minho explained. "Not biological evolution alone, but the evolution of consciousness. They believe certain species have potential to transcend their physical limitations. And humans have this potential?" Korek asked skeptically. "As do Arcturians," Juwu said. "The architects told us that your species was approaching its own test. Your conflict with us was part of it. Would you choose destruction or growth when faced with difference?" The meeting lasted hours, with both sides sharing knowledge. By its end, a framework for peace had been established, along with cultural exchange programs. More surprisingly, Korek requested that Arcturian representatives be allowed to visit the Horizon to learn about the technology. Not to copy it, the elder clarified, but to understand if our own encounter with the architects might be approaching. On the return journey to Earth, Tahoe found Juwu in the observation deck, staring at the stars. "You knew this would happen," he said. "The peace with the Arcturians." She turned to him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "I saw it as a possibility. The architects showed us many possible futures. In some, we destroyed each other. In others, we grew together." "And which did they prefer?" "They don't make those choices. They only provide opportunities. The choice is always ours. Back on Earth, the news of the Arcturian peace treaty was met with mixed reactions. Many celebrated, but others feared change or doubted the aliens' sincerity. Meanwhile, Taiho's research revealed more about the changes happening to the Horizon crew. Your brains are developing new structures, he explained during a briefing with IDC officials. Areas that handle perception, processing, and consciousness are expanding. It's almost like your minds are preparing for something. For greater connection, Ju said, with each other, with the technology, and eventually with the broader universe. Are they still human? General Han asked bluntly. Taiho hesitated before answering. Yes, but perhaps humans in the process of becoming something more. The IDC established the Horizon Initiative, a program to study the technology and train selected individuals in the mental techniques needed to use it safely. Ju and her crew became teachers, guiding others through the first steps of what they called conscious evolution. Not everyone accepted these changes easily. Protests formed against alien influence and unnatural evolution. Some religious groups declared it an affront to human nature, while others embraced it as divine gift. Nations argued over access to the technology and the power it represented. Amid this turbulence, Taiho worked closely with the crew, documenting their ongoing transformation. One evening, as he reviewed brain scans in his lab, Ju brought him tea. "You're working too hard," she said gently. "I'm trying to understand what you're becoming," he replied, not looking up. She touched his cheek, turning his face toward hers. "Does it frighten you?" "Yes," he admitted. "I'm afraid you'll evolve beyond need for people like me. Beyond need for me." Ju smiled, the patterns beneath her skin glowing warmly. "The architects didn't remove our humanity, Taiho. They expanded it. Love isn't something we evolve beyond. It evolves with us, becomes deeper, more connected." She placed his hand on her heart. "I will always be Ju. I will always love you. The only question is whether you want to join me on this journey." "Join you? How?" "The changes we experienced can be shared, under the right conditions. A merging of consciousness, a gift freely given and received." Taiho's heart raced. "You mean I could become like you?" "If you choose to," she said. "The architects believe in choice above all." The ship vanished in a cascade of light, leaving Earth behind, but carrying its hopes forward into a universe suddenly full of new possibility. The end.